the motion on the maize subsidy and to state to the House that we did the inquiry. We invited all the stakeholders that were involved in the subsidy. As you know, the maize subsidy was a hot issue just before the elections and after the elections. And this government is now focused on production subsidy rather than consumer subsidy. On the inquiry, we found out that there were a lot of challenges that actually will result in questioning whether there was value for money for this subsidy. But further inquiry revealed that the small millers who actually supplied maize, the maize flour, did not know the entire architecture, unlike the large-scale millers. So they were just brought in at the 11th hour, and actually they spent their money in supplying the maize for the subsidy. And looking at the current financial situations for the small millers, they are in dire situation in that they have taken bank loans because the government could not be able to pay them for a long time. That's why the committee came to a conclusion that the small-scale millers were very genuine and they are currently suffering, and we urge this House to approve this report so that that segment of millers who are struggling like any other Kenyan can be paid to a tune of 500 million, the one that is still due to them, so that the ministry doesn't take more time to alleviate their suffering. So we call upon this House to look at the report, to debate the report, and come to the conclusion that the committee came to, that the small-scale millers need to be paid their dues. Now, looking at the big fish are the large-scale millers. They are the ones that sat with the big bosses. They designed the program, and they executed. And you can imagine the design of the program whereby you have the floor subsidy going for 100 shillings. That's a drop all the way from 200 and 230 then. But there is no label to indicate that this bag is from the maize subsidy. It doesn't have the GOK label. It doesn't have the subsidized label. And what we found out is that the brokers in between and the cartels that are all over in this country managed to benefit, and they might have used now that maize flour. They go and created artificial shortage. And I know most of the members, given that you are also interacting with the public, getting the maize flour then was not a very easy thing, because it disappeared in our shelves. Because these cartels, they were able to take the maize, they store them in their stores, and when the subsidy was stopped suddenly, what happened is now the maize flooded the market, but the millers could not be able to sell the maize because there were a lot of them at the stores of the cartels. So that is why we feel that there needs to be more investigation on what happened to this program, especially. What is out of order?
I would advise that points of order, order members. Points of order nowadays are done through intervention, not through howling at your seat. Yeah. So if I say intervention here, I will be able to then know whether.
Okay. May I proceed? May I proceed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
What I'm saying.
Order. Don't Boruku. What is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, this is a House of Records, and we were sworn in to oversight on the behalf of Kenyans. And this committee is extremely important committee. And if the member who is seconding, he has talked about cartels.
Honorable Luke, I want you to go
Is he in order to talk about the cartels without mentioning the names so that the people of the Republic of Kenya can be able to understand who are these cartels who have been causing trouble when it comes to the issues of unga. The issues of unga is an extremely pertinent issue, Mr. Speaker. It's an issue which we cannot. It's an issue, actually it's a security.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I am on record.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for coming to my rescue. I think, Honorable Rugu, unless you are not living in Kenya, you know we have cartels in this country, so we don't need to elaborate. But since I cannot substantiate on that, then maybe for the record, I withdraw that statement on the cartels, but kindly know that there are cartels in this country. So may I proceed? Okay, from our report, our report is very clear that for now, the small-scale millers, as we have stated, they were not in the design and the architecture of this program. They were brought in the 11th hour. They were just told to mill maize, and given that they were within our estates and living within the population, they milled the maize, and when they took their product outside, the population took them, and they were able to sell to those who are available within those precincts. But the design of the project of the maize subsidy was that the large-scale millers, there was a whole chain from the cereals, from the provincial administration, from the security apparatus. All those were supposed to guard that food chain to ensure that it reached the distributors, it reached the wholesalers, and also it reached the retailers. But for the small scale millers, we are urging this House kindly consider the report and alleviate the suffering that these small millers have been going through, so that their money can be released without further delay. As I finish, there is need for this House to look at Article 223 that the current Treasury are using to approve expenditures that are not within our budget, and looking at those expenditures, some of them might not be emergency expenditures. So I'm calling upon this House, let us also relook at that article and to put caution so that it can only be used when the need arises. Especially, we have noted that as we head towards the election period, there is misuse of Article 223 for government to spend money that has not been voted by this House. So we also call upon, that's what we discovered when we are doing the inquiry, that there is need to guard on the utilization of Article 223 by the Treasury officials. Otherwise, I second and I call this House to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable David Kiplagat. Before I propose the motion for debate,